Good evening, everyone. It is 6:01 p.m., April 15th, 2025. We are at the Cape Canaveral City Council regular meeting in the City Hall Council chambers located at 100 Polk Avenue in Cape Canaveral, Florida. Call this meeting to order. Councilmember Davis, would you please lead us in the pledge?
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. City Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Davis.
Here.
Councilmember Jackson.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Callum.
Here.
Mayor Morrison.
Here.
And Councilmember Willis.
Here.
Thank you all for being here and all who are joining us here today in public and online. This time, Council, we're on the item number 4 to approve the agenda as written or with amendments. I do have one thing. Just like to, I guess, take no action, and we could just take no action when we get to it. But on the consent agenda, item 7A1 for the January 28th, 2025 meetings, special meeting minutes, and the verbatim excerpt for the January 28th, 2025 special meeting. I'd like to just clarify a few things before we do anything with this, with the city attorney. And if the council can postpone it or take no action, I don't know if the city attorney recommends, if, in the event I don't want to move forward with that right now, and the council's willing.
Mayor, one suggestion would be to approve the agenda and removing the January 28th, 2025 special meeting draft minutes and the verbatim excerpt.
Okay, and that would be A1 and B?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that was all I had as far as the structure of the agenda. So we would essentially, when we get to the consent, I mean, we can approve really all of that together, and for clarity, you could approve A, 2, and 3 if the council chooses to withhold. So are there any other changes, reordering, additions to the agenda, council?
Are we approving the agenda as written
Without those two items.
without the,
With deletions.
so we need a motion for that?
Yes.
Yes.
Make a motion to approve the agenda as written with deletions.
I'll second.
Got a motion by Councilmember Willis, second by Mayor Pro Tem Kellum. Any further discussion? City Attorney, all good there?
All good.
City Clerk?
Councilmember Davis.
4.
Councilmember Jackson.
4.
Mayor Pro Tem Callum.
4.
Mayor Morrison.
4.
And Councilmember Willis.
4.
Okay, we are now to the presentations portion of the meeting. We have 3 today, very exciting. And due to a limited mobility, I'm going to go down, and usually I go back and forth for all 3, but we'll do them in the order that they're there. I think we have some representatives for each of them. The first presentation is the Arbor Day Proclamation. Then we'll do the National Pickleball Month Proclamation, and then Water Conservation Month Proclamation. So I will go ahead and bring these forward, and if those representatives are here as we get to them, more than welcome to come up, say a few words, and certainly take a photo together if you choose. So just give me a moment, and I'm going to head down to the podium. Thank you. I actually got it.
You did? You're next for the
Picture of Arbor Day. The proclamation, okay.
I fell off a ladder into a bathtub and didn't break anything, so.
Okay.
Oops.
First proclamation is an official proclamation of the City of Cape Canaveral. Whereas in 1872, J. Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for the planting of trees, and whereas this holiday, called Arbor Day, was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska and is now observed throughout the nation and the world, and whereas trees can reduce the erosion of topsoil, mitigate stormwater flooding, cut heating and cooling costs, moderate the temperature, clean the air, produce life-giving oxygen, sequester carbon dioxide, and provide a habitat for wildlife. And whereas trees are a renewable resource, giving us paper, wood for our home, and fuel for our fire. And whereas trees in our city increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, beautify our community, and are a source of joy and spiritual renewal. And whereas the City of Cape Canaveral is celebrating its 36th year as a recognized tree city, now therefore I, Wes Morrison, Mayor of the City of Cape Canaveral, Brevard County, Florida, do hereby proclaim April 25th, 2025 as Arbor Day in the City of Cape Canaveral, and urge all citizens to celebrate Arbor Day, support efforts to protect our trees and woodlands, and plant trees to gladden the heart and promote the well-being of this and future generations. Signed and sealed this 15th day of April 2025. Do we have a representative here?
Yes.
Thank you. If you'd like to say a few words.
Sure. Good evening. I'm Dana Sussman. I'm a forester with the Florida Forest Service, and I'm really glad to be here to accept the Arbor Day proclamation. Although you've declared one day officially Arbor Day, as a forester, for me, every day is Arbor Day because trees are such an important part of our communities. You've shown your commitment to trees by being recognized for 36 years as a Tree City USA. I'm sure you loved trees before the first Tree City USA award and will continue to. Again, it's really nice to be here for the chance to say thank you. And I'm sure the residents of the City of Cape Canaveral appreciate all you do to take care of the trees you already have and plant new trees. And just finally, Arbor Day is one of those days where we're doing things that we may not reap the benefits from in the near future, but the next generation certainly will. So again, thank you and congratulations on the Tree City USA tenure.
If you'd like to take a presentation, I'm not walk over here. I'll hold this with you.
Oh, okay.
We can take a photograph together.
Sure.
Can we do it right here? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. We do love our trees in Cape Canaveral, so thank you, and thank the city staff and all who's been a part of making that happen. This next proclamation is an official proclamation of the City of Cape Canaveral, Florida, whereas pickleball is a rapidly growing sport that promotes physical activity, social engagement, and a sense of community for people of all ages and skill levels, and whereas the City of Cape Canaveral recognizes the importance of recreational activities in enhancing the quality of life for its residents and visitors, And whereas the growth and success of Cape Canaveral's pickleball program would not be possible without the dedication and hard work of enthusiastic volunteers, staff, and players who have contributed their time, effort, and expertise to organizing events, creating leagues, and introducing new players to the sport. And whereas these volunteers have played a pivotal role in fostering a welcoming and inclusive environment that encourages sportsmanship, camaraderie, and active living. And whereas while Cape Canaveral has the luxury of enjoying pickleball year-round, April marks the beginning of peak pickleball season in most communities nationwide, making it a fitting time to celebrate the sport's positive impact on the Cape Canaveral community. Now, therefore, I, Wes Morrison, Mayor of the City of Cape Canaveral, Brevard County, Florida, do hereby proclaim the month of April as National Pickleball Month, and we express our deepest appreciation to the dedicated volunteers whose efforts have strengthened and expanded the pickleball community in Cape Canaveral, making it a thriving and enjoyable activity for all. Signed and sealed this 15th day of April, 2025. We love our pickleball. Janie, I think I saw somebody here to receive or loved. We can come here and take a little photograph, and then if you'd like to say a few words. Thank you. Thank you. I'm not very competitive right now.
Oh, yeah, I know. At least we know it didn't happen during pickleball. I just want to say thank you as well for your efforts. I think we've been active about 6 years now, and we're growing. It's a beautiful community. It is inclusive, like you said. It's all ages. There's a lot of younger members coming out. The staff has always been supportive, and we appreciate that. There are several club members, and that just means you volunteer, you help, and there's like a lot of those, 80 to 100, but there's probably 20 to 30 that volunteer all the time for every event, tournaments, leagues, and we really appreciate them as well as you all for letting us have that opportunity. Thank you.
Sorry.
Last and certainly not least, proclamation is an official proclamation of the City of Cape Canaveral, Florida. Whereas water is a basic and essential need of every living creature, and whereas the state of Florida, water management districts, and the City of Cape Canaveral are working together to increase awareness about the importance of water conservation, and whereas the City of Cape Canaveral and the state of Florida has designated April, typically a dry month when water demands are most acute, Florida's Water Conservation Month, to educate citizens about how they can help save Florida's precious water resources. And whereas the City of Cape Canaveral has always encouraged and supported water conservation through various educational programs, outreach, and special events, and whereas every business, industry, school, and resident can make a difference when it comes to conserving water, and whereas every business, industry, school, and resident can help by saving water and thus promote a healthy economy and community, and whereas efficient irrigation design, programming, and maintenance can conserve water, the City of Cape Canaveral will encourage citizens and businesses to evaluate their irrigation systems for potential efficiency enhancements. Now, therefore, be it resolved that by virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor of the City of Cape Canaveral, do hereby proclaim the month of April as Water Conservation Month. The City of Cape Canaveral, Florida is calling upon each resident and business to help protect our precious resource by practicing water-saving measures and becoming more aware of the need to save water. For this, the 27th year of Water Conservation Month, There will be a special focus on irrigation system evaluations, signed and sealed this 15th day of April 2025. You come here and take a vote.
We have a special guest, the rainbow.
Zach and I had a whole routine worked out.
You can take that with you if you choose. Okay.
Mr. Mayor and City Council, thank you for once again recognizing the importance of Water Conservation Month. This is the 27th year that April's been designated Water Conservation Month in Florida, and it's an important way, easy way, but an important way to put this back on everybody's radar, to help conserve this vital resource. As the mayor mentioned, as the proclamation mentioned, there is a focus this year on irrigation systems. Every year there's a theme to kind of get some more specificity to it and give people sort of a mission when they get home. So it only takes a few minutes. Make sure your irrigation system is functioning the way it should. There aren't any leaks. And if there are, try to get them fixed. But that's it. Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And just a real quick shameless plug, the city does have a rain barrel program for residents. We get them free from a local aloe vera company, so they're food grade barrels ready to go, 55 gallons. That's an example of one right behind me that our on-staff artist painted recently. It's really beautiful. So if you want to take advantage of that, you can as a resident, and you can also get a $50 rebate from Cocoa Water if you prove your installation through the city of Cape Canaveral. So just want to throw that out there.
Wonderful. Thank you all again. Love the presentations and proclamations every month, but this month was special. Excellent. So now we are on to the public participation portion of the meeting. If you do intend to speak, we have some public comment cards at the front. We do ask that you please fill those out. I do have a few up here, and if anyone's listening online would like to speak, please digitally raise your hand, and we'll make sure that you're recognized after the folks here have an opportunity to. And with that, the first card I have here is Mr. John Benton. Mr. Benton.
Okay, we know why I'm here. For a code reduction hearing, and I told you 10 years ago that I wasn't going to stop until I came in here. You didn't allow me to defend myself in that meeting. Kevin Mann, your deacon up at the Presbyterian Church, came in and lied to everybody, and everybody's lost their jobs, counting Morley because of that. And Dickey, he shouldn't have been fired. He took the blame for a lot of stuff. If it wasn't for Dickey, I wouldn't have known that Kevin Mann's son was a security guard up there when his son was living in the warehouses that you accused me of living in. Why don't you ask the lawyer, I'm talking to the board, why don't you board members ask the lawyer why his employee, the lawyer, would not let me defend myself? That's like the Fourth Amendment. Everybody gets a chance to defend themselves. Kevin gets up and sinks me. If he would have let me defend myself, I could have told you, take the fire truck up there that night, pull it into the A and B units and turn the sirens on, and those guys would be opening the door because there was a half a dozen of them in those units that night. He lied to you, everybody. He lied to the police. And because Officer Nettles didn't tell you I had a police officer in my unit, you took it out on him and sent him out to the jail to work. That's a demotion, going from a nice cushy job in the city to the jail. He's not supposed to tell you that part of that. If he would have told anybody, he would have told Kevin Mann. Kevin Mann would have told those homeless people, and my renter, the cop from Cocoa Beach, he would have never had peace because he ended up moving out of the warehouses because there was nothing but problems up there. They all want to come over there and drink beer with him. He has his back to the door. They hit him on the head and kill him. Everybody's going to blame me. Hey, John, you should have kept your mouth shut. Everything was fine. I sold Kevin Mann 2 warehouses of mine. And that's the way he's going to come in there and try to get my other 2. That's what he wants. He wants 75% of those warehouses, and he can force a sale. Everybody has to sell. If somebody has to buy the whole complex at one time. He has 67%. Out there, you got no more anonymous complaints. And that, you know why? Because Kevin Mann went over to Merritt Island to a guy named Jim Harper, a retired Army guy, called the code enforcement on him. Because when I told Jim Harper about it, I said, man, Kevin went in there and got me in trouble. So I lived in the warehouse, kept calling code enforcement. He looked at me and goes, that just happened to me. He's been living in that house for over 20 years. He couldn't figure out who his neighbors would do that. And the code enforcement officer told him that whoever did it knows code enforcement, because it was on the side of his house and was told to code enforcement, oh, you can see it from the sidewalk. You can't convince him that it wasn't Kevin, because Kevin was trying to buy his units for $5,000.
Thank you.
And the last time I was here, some woman out here, when that red light came on, said, the red light's on, you need to get your people under control.
Thank you. Okay, the next one is Mary Scibona.
Hello, I'm Mary Scibona. I live in Winter Haven, Florida. I'm here today because on November 14th of last year, I was attacked, mauled, and nearly killed by a dog on a Cape Canaveral beach. This was on the news, so I'm certain it's not news to any of you. You know that it happened. I've tried to reach out to the mayor, and I've kind of been unsuccessful in getting a meeting with you. I know that it was in the news, so you all are aware of it. I just want your help. Please, let's not let this happen to other people. I think there's some simple fixes. We can raise fines for dogs off leashes. We can raise fines for dogs that are on the beach and they're not supposed to be. This was just kind of brushed under the carpet, and it's horrible. I have been going to therapy 2-3 times a week. I can walk, thank God. I can move my arms around. For a while, I couldn't even lift my arm over my head. My psyche is horrible. I'm just absolutely scared to death of dogs, even little dogs. I was not afraid of dogs before. It's just an absolute horrible thing, and I think you guys can do something. You can make new laws. You can raise the fines so that people don't do this. They don't bring their unleashed dogs out in public and allow them to attack people and hurt them. If you guys have seen half the things that I've seen on Facebook, dogbites.org, and all these different things, there's kids with their faces ripped off, and people with their own dogs biting their nose off, biting the arm off, a leg off, and I get nothing. The person that owned the dog had nothing. They have no insurance. They had no leash on the dog. The dog didn't belong on that beach. And nobody has even reached out to me to say, hey, are you okay from that? That was pretty horrific. If any of you saw the pictures that were on the TV, it was pretty horrific. My genitals were attacked. My right thigh was attacked. It was shredded. And my arm was attacked. And a big hunk of my arm was ripped open. It's horrible. It's really horrible. You guys need to step up and change laws. In Ohio, there's a mayor there that's working on this to try to change the laws and make it mandatory that if a dog does that one time, it's done. This person that owns the dog is a felon. He went to jail in February. He was in jail for a month and a half, almost 2 months, and the dog was left with someone else. Well, that woman, which was his girlfriend, I guess, she had enough sense to have the dog put down because she couldn't keep up her end of the bargain. It was a dog that was a dangerous dog. It took so long to get that dog's name on the dangerous dog list. It took over 3 months. But it was deemed dangerous, I think it was in December. Thank you all. I appreciate you listening.
Mary, if you don't mind, I'd like to, first of all, you did reach out. I want to thank you for coming forward today and I know that takes a lot of courage, and very sorry, I can confidently say on behalf of the entire council, very sorry for what you went through. I don't know when the best time is, but shortly after that meeting, Councilmember Willis and really the whole council took up an issue and had our deputies in animal control. But I wanted to circle back with you and with the whole council and see if we can't listen to some of the ideas. Very valuable to have your input, experiencing that directly. I was able to respond to you, but you're right. I have not been able to solidify a meeting. And I think every third Tuesday of every month we have a meeting. We have one this. And so if it'd be okay with you, between now and the next meeting, if we can get together, potentially, if the council chooses, we can circle back on some of the actions we looked at and took to address this issue. So.
I really appreciate you talking to me. It would be very helpful, and I know that you guys can help. This doesn't happen to other people. I know you can. I appreciate that. And if you don't have my number, I'll include it in my next email, and please reach out to me.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
The next card I have here, and the last one, now this is, there's an agenda item tagged to it, which is item number 8. Ms. Lillian Myers, if you'd like to come forward now, you can. If you wanted to wait. That's the last card I have too. Wait then, okay. I'll put that one to the side. If there was anyone else who intended to speak, that's all the cards. Please come forward now or raise your hand, let me know. And anyone who online, seeing none, I will go ahead and close public participation until we get to item number 8. And to clarify, item 8 has 8B as in boy. Thank you. 8B. All right. We are now to the consent agenda. Unless council chooses to pull, we can take action on the remaining items that were not deleted until further action, which was A, 2, and 3.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda 8, 2, and 3.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilmember Willis, second by Councilmember Davis. Any further discussion? Seeing none, City Clerk.
Councilmember Davis. 4. Councilmember Jackson. 4. Mayor Pro Tem Callum.
4.
Mayor Morrison.
4.
And Councilmember Willis.
4.
Consent agenda items 7A, 2, and 3 pass unanimously, which brings us to item number 8, our first item for action, 8A, City Hall Office Build-Out Project. With JCKC Construction LLC, this is a motion to consider the approval of City Hall Office Build-Out Project invitation to bid number 2024-05 to the most responsive and responsible bidder in the amount of $53,731 to JCKC Construction LLC and authorize interim city manager to execute the same. Mr. Interim City Manager, John, is there anything you'd like to give us an overview here? Anything we need to address?
Yeah, Mayor, this build-out is definitely necessary because we are taking on a few more employees, and this is gonna allow them to actually have a work area. We'll have 3 extra work spaces in the one big room where this is gonna go on the second floor of City Hall. There's also another, the enclave there, when you get off the elevator, next to where my office, my finance office is, there's an area there too that we'll be working on. But this bigger room with the 3 offices is much needed, and we're starting to bring on new employees as we speak. If you need additional information, any additional questions, Tim's here, my capital projects director, and he could talk to you more about the actual build-out.
Thank you for that. I mean, we have the agenda summary here, which is very helpful. The construction documents were included. I would just ask, as city attorney, is there anything that you think the council should be aware of as far as the contract? Pretty standard as normal from a legal?
Yes, it's the most recent form construction contract that we use. It just needs to be filled out for this specific contract.
Thank you. Council?
I have a question.
Yes, Councilmember Willis.
Tim can go ahead and get up. Several years ago, we had budgeted $90,000 for the build-out. What is the difference now?
How much?
$90,000 was budgeted for the build-out 2 years ago. What is the difference now?
I have no clue.
Okay.
If I may cut in there, Tim, does this 53K, does that include the enclave, that's between the city clerk's office and my finance office? Does that include that also?
Yes,
Okay.
we did this kind of in a phase 1, phase 2 kind of project-wise. And I told all bidders to give me phase 1 and phase 2, just in case it ended up being astronomical or something. I like to give myself options to give to you guys to approve and not approve. But when it came back, it was decent, and I was like, oh, that's not bad at all. But that's including the enclave and the oversized room. I'm not sure, I somehow remember the 90,000, but I don't think I was part of the project at that point.
I believe that's where an estimate came in at the time, and it came in at 90K. But surely it's definitely very refreshing to know that it'll only be 53K. So I'm extremely happy about that.
Of course, I just wanted to be sure that
Yeah.
we weren't leaving anything out.
No.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question.
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem Kellum.
In this year's budget, the 24-25, it was budgeted for 50,000, so it's 3,700 over.
Correct. I believe that we had extra funds for furniture and stuff like that we can put towards this.
$15,000, which we will not have to spend. So the additional 30-some hundred will come out of the general fund, which again, another win-win for us. So that'll keep an extra 12K in the general fund too.
And my other question was, how many more employees? I mean, once we do this, is there going to be any more room for more employees? My point is that, in 2022, we had 9,800 people in the city. In 2023, we had 10,000. So we've grown by 47 people in 10 years. And I'm just wondering, how many more employees do we need with the growth that we have in our city? And where are we going to go after this? Hopefully, when we do these new offices, that will be the end of putting more money into the city hall, I'm hoping.
That's a very good question, and I have a very good answer for you.
Okay, good.
Actually, there's like 3 more positions. The city desperately needs a records management officer, which we'll be bringing that person on soon. And then in addition, something the city hasn't had is it's going to be like a contracts/asset manager. And there's one other position. Actually, they're the only 2 positions right now that we're bringing on. And so they would occupy that room, but that leaves us an extra office. But these are positions that the city was doing without. And to operate more efficiently and whatever, I think it's very important. So, but that would be it. I wouldn't foresee in the next 2 to 3 years, or maybe even beyond, that we would need more employees than that. And I think our plate would be full, and also City Hall would be full. So I think we finally, we just never got to that point based on all the different things that were happening. But now we have there's a window, an opening here for us to really get the staff that we need to support these things for the future. So these were things that were actually missing, that were being absorbed and now could be done and accounted for much more efficiently.
Thank you. Thank you, Tim.
Councilmember Jackson?
The one thing I noticed, Tim, is these bids are all over the place. I mean, we've got one at 74, one at 53, and one at 40,000. And I noticed that Doug Wilson is in Merritt Island. The other two are over in the Orlando area. I mean, how can they be that far off? And what would keep you from going with the lowest vendor?
All right, I'm glad to.
As Tim is handing this informational packet out, I will tell you that staff has done extensive work and kept extensive records detailing, not only for staff and for council, but for the taxpayer, on when this particular city hall was built, the things that we had to go back to and get fixed through that contractor. Everything here has been provided to council, and they could see all the work that staff did to meet the shortcomings and also the financial impact with that particular contractor. Well, with that being said, although the cost that we selected may be a little bit more, in the end, we believe it's a much better path, because we're not willing to take a chance on a contract that might have cost us thousands of dollars in the past. We have to go with what we believe is going to be better workmanship, and in the end, it'll save the taxpayers money without having to go back and for products that were not fitted right or just malfunctioned, whatever. But this handout that I had staff do will back up that, and that's one of the prime reasons.
That.
And you have to do that. And I think the citizens know too that, sometimes if you go with the lower bidder, you get what you pay for. So you got to be very careful with that. And the last thing is, yes, Tim, these prices are all over the place, and it is sad, and this is the world we live in, that if we got 6 quotes, they'd be way all over the place. And at times you see that people, that maybe they're taking a little bit of advantage of inflation or whatever, but sometimes contractors are charging just kind of what they were to see what they can get. And this is a smaller job. So sometimes on smaller jobs, that's what happens. They'll try to get as much as they could. Well, we got a reasonable price here on this second quote that we took. So staff and I feel confident that we'll get a good job done here, and we'll be worth our money. So
Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. And that helps me understand the decision-making process and that such. It is a wide disparity on all 3 vendors.
Yeah, this hasn't happened the first time. There's been plenty of times, and I actually go through very carefully on all the bid packages. And I will call people that they've done jobs on, ask them questions, see if they've had any problems. Another thing I look for is change orders, because if they have a lot of change orders, there's evidently something wrong with the way they're doing the work. I take that into consideration. There's a whole grading thing that I go through and make sure that, that we're going to get the best of
Now,
the best.
I have one other question, just as someone that hasn't worked on one of these construction projects yet with you, or been
Yeah.
up here when you've been doing that. So how does, okay, when they contract with us to do this project, are they allowed to subcontract out the work?
They are.
They
Any
are.
contractor that we have can subcontract. Normally, within the bid package, they'll tell us who they're subcontracting with. It's within the bid package. They'll just name them and what they actually are going to be doing, and then what the contractor themselves are going to be doing.
Okay, now can that contractor that they contracted to contract it out?
So like a sub?
Yeah.
I don't think that's ever happened before.
Okay,
One of my projects, but I don't see why not.
I've seen it happen in the federal government, that's why I was asking that.
Okay.
Where literally they'll go 4 vendors deep, and then when
Yeah.
something goes south, the project goes south in any way, you're kind of stuck holding the bag. So I was curious if that's something that we allow, or if they would potentially do that, so,
Right.
okay.
I
But
don't
we
think
haven't
there's-
ran
Yeah,
into,
Councilmember Jackson, you are absolutely correct. In the federal government, that happens a lot because I used to be connected also with the federal government. But I could tell you here at the city, I haven't seen it go beyond to like third and fourth,
right,
So I don't see that happening. I don't ever recall that happening in a third scale or fourth scale level contractor. But they do have, of course, they do have subs and whatever.
I mean, you have your tile. If you
Yeah.
have tile, you have your tile layer that's a subcontractor to the contractor.
right,
But then they get the tile from a manufacturer, if you consider that a sub.
no.
Not
Okay,
necessarily.
okay.
No,
I don't
this would
think
be
that
like
is.
4 layers of subcontractors.
Yeah, and the prime
layering
is
in and
ultimately-
just standing there,
I
is
could
what
pull
I've
my
seen
hair
happen.
And the prime is
So I wanted to
ultimately,
make sure that
the
wouldn't-
prime is ultimately responsible, right? So, yeah. But that's a good point, Councilman Jackson, because in the federal government, that is rampant, and third and fourth, they have a heck of a time getting paid on time, too.
Exactly, and I don't think that would be the case with the amount of money that we've got, that they've given us for a bid on this, but I've seen it happen, so I was just curious.
Right, yeah.
Okay, thank you, Tim.
I'm glad I haven't had to deal with one of those.
They're not pleasant.
Any other questions on this one, council?
No, I would just like to say thank you so much for the additional information. That really helps us and clarifies the questions that we have. Thank you.
And
for the
I'll give a
extra.
special credit to Lisa, our office manager, who tracked, was involved every time the contractor came in to say, you need to correct this, you need to correct that. And she worked diligently on this, so thank you, Lisa. I know she can't be here tonight.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
I just have a few basic questions. Do we know roughly how many offices are in City Hall on both floors today?
Well, that's a trick question, Mayor, because I'd have to count them in my head real quick. I never really, I would say 14 upstairs, maybe. 14 upstairs, I don't know. How many downstairs? Zach?
I'm thinking about Lisa's directory.
12 downstairs, 14 upstairs, maybe. 13, okay. So say 27 offices total, Mayor?
13 downstairs, 18 upstairs.
18 upstairs? Oh, thank you, Mike.
So
Okay.
18 on the upstairs second floor and 13?
Yeah, 30, that's 31. Are you counting the mayor's office? Okay. So say 32.
Okay, and this would take us to,
Well, then we'll have 35 because we'll have 3 in that big room.
and that big room was not counted as one of the 18
No.
upstairs?
No.
Okay, not counting doors, just basically
Right.
office or spaces being used for
Right.
office today. And the timeline phases, when do we think,
Tim,
I'm sorry, Tim,
timeline?
I guess when it would, if the bid is, that once this moves forward, how long when would it start roughly and finish, estimated?
Normally, I leave that to the contractor to tell me, but I'm gonna guesstimate that they should, once it's approved by the council, I'll send them a notice of award, J.C. Casey, a notice of award. And then once I get that out, I'll send them the contract to sign, get notarized and everything, and then send them a notice to proceed. Once that happens, normally on a job like this, it'll take probably about a week and a half for them to assemble everything and get me a good timeline. I'm gonna think that probably within a couple weeks to 3 weeks it'll start. And then I'm giving it probably about 90 days, it might be completed.
So by the end of the year?
Yes.
Okay. I heard a lot of the comments, I agree, Mayor Pro Tem, and it looks like it's going to help. My concern, which might tie in more to what the Mayor Pro Tem was saying, is that the new hires, capital asset or an asset
Contracts
manager,
manager.
and then what were the other additional?
And then there's the records, a records
John,
manager.
if I could real fast, don't forget there's also people doubling up in
Well,
rooms.
and that's what I was gonna say. And then, Mayor, we have the HR assistant, Kelly, who's sitting next to Natalie in the HR director's office. So she would move across the hall.
Okay, that makes sense.
And that's the three.
But it'll be, and then so there'll be two more potentially, because there's others shared, I think, IT is another one, but maybe.
That basically gets everybody's one then. With Kelly coming out of the HR director's office.
So the contracts asset manager, that would fall under like a finance?
Actually, right now, we're determining whether that comes under the administrative director. So when we get a new city manager, that administrative director, that person would come under me. Or we're going to look at it a little deeper, because this could actually be a line right under and work directly for the city manager as the executive assistant. Lisa works for the city manager. So we're going to make that determination. We got to discuss based on duties and.
Okay, so it potentially could work for the.
It's either going to work for the city manager or me.
And thank you, and then the other one would be more of a records, city clerk?
City clerk.
Function, okay. And then the split. My concern, I understand the existing would be that the new city manager would it be better to wait for the new city manager before making expansions? Not the expansion side. I understand the common sense of just optimizing our space. Like that is, I get that, and that makes sense. But the hiring of new positions and things like that is the only thing that gave me some pause. Just talking openly about creating new positions before a new city manager came in. And those are my comments.
Yeah, Mayor, I will tell you that these were discussed with the previous city manager who did support these to be part of this year's budget. We actually delayed a year. We talked about this last year, but we actually delayed, and this was part of that plan. And we saw the need for those positions to help us be stronger internally. So we were going to do that, and get it in this next year's budget. Actually, the records manager will be, the contracts will be for next year's budget, but the records management's going to be brought on soon.
Okay, and the asset manager would be brought on?
Not till 1 October.
But both of them in the year 2025?
Right, the asset, the contract's asset manager 2025, but the records is going to be brought on here in a few weeks.
I would be for, 100% making the office upgrades, expanding for the sake of this agenda item moving. I'm just concerned with, we have not adding a new position that seems like it could be a good idea. Just don't want to build the office space for something that maybe we don't have the ability to hire. However, it's not a big concern.
No, and we did, and recall for council, just for councils, we did let go of 2 employees. One was William and Melissa. They were doing all the records, and we did let them go because they were primarily scanning and things of that nature. So we, those people, that was a part-time position, and the other position I believe was full-time, a little lower grade, what have you, but now we're up in the ante here. But so basically, as terms as funding goes, it's not we're taking it all in the pants, because we actually had those people on staff before. Yeah.
Thank you for that. Okay. That was it. Just wanted to talk openly. I think the project, better using the space is great. And I mean, if my concern was valid and it becomes an issue, it really doesn't change, optimizing the space. The only thing I would get heartburn is if there was another project or something, or we end up having to do, fee increases or tax increases, and for $50,000, that's why I say it's not a large expenditure that we would be, I think, in that circumstance. Tim, I'm finished, I promise. Thank you.
I have one more.
Yes, Councilmember Jackson?
And so, Tim, from what I could see, and I just want to make sure I'm thinking along the right lines, we'd have some studs, we'd have some sheetrock possibly to enclose that alcove, would have electrical for the correct outlets and that kind of thing. Finish out if there's baseboards, doors. In the extra room, we would have some walls gone. Are we talking walls, making 3 offices in the one large office?
So originally that office that Melissa was in, the big room, it's kind of used as storage right now. That was originally made, if I'm not mistaken, as I think David Green wanted to make it a workout room. Well, the room never ended up being a workout room. It just ended up being a huge room that people just kind of put stuff in. So it was wasted space.
Right.
And I think as the city saw more and more of a need for certain people to do certain things within the city, they said, well, why don't we take this huge wasted space and just make it into 3 offices? So each office is going to have its own door. The neat thing about this is the doors are already there.
Okay.
So it's just minor work on some AC stuff, the fire suppression system. Walls are going to go up. No walls are being torn down. Some light switches are going to be moved around. Some plugs are going to be added, and that's about it.
So even demolition would be minimized in this case, in both cases?
Yeah, there's no demolition
No
whatsoever.
demolition at all?
Just moving stuff around.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. I just wanted to understand the scope a little bit.
Anything else, council? Seeing none? Thank you.
I'll make a motion to consider the approval of the City Hall build-out project.
I'll second the motion.
Got a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Kellum, second by Councilmember Jackson. Any further discussion on the motion? City Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Davis. 4. Councilmember Jackson.
4.
Mayor Pro Tem Kellum.
4.
Mayor Morrison.
4.
And Councilmember Willis.
4.
Item passes unanimously, 5-0. On the agenda item 8A, we are now to agenda item 8B, our second item for action, which is the Rocket Launch Impact Monitoring Study with the Florida Institute of Technology. This is a proposal or motion to consider the approval of an agreement between the City of Cape Canaveral and the Florida Institute of Technology to begin actively monitoring rocket launch impacts to the built environment. I do have a public comment card on this one, as we referenced earlier. Prior to going, council, if we choose, we can hear those public comments. But are there any technical questions on this for city staff at this time prior to doing so? Clarify?
I have some questions, but let's go ahead and hear the
Okay.
public comment first.
And just so that you are aware, Zach is going to give us some more information on this and give us a little presentation about what he has included.
That's great, thank you. Okay, Ms. Lillian Myers?
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor Morrison and council members. I'm delighted to be here with you tonight to talk about this. I'm sure we're all aware that launch frequency has increased dramatically and certainly has in the 8 years that I have been a resident here in Cape Canaveral, in a fourth floor condo on the Banana River at the very tail end of Cape Canaveral, with a little bit of water coming right around the building all the way around a 5-story building, so on the river with a little water area back behind us. So we're really susceptible to changes in the environment, in the built environment, not just the natural environment, but also what happens with the vibration and noise. Noise we'll talk about, but vibration is probably the more important element of what happens with launches. So I do have some proficiency in this. I'm an entrepreneur in residence at Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University, have been in technology and have done a lot of things around investment in space technology as well. So I think about it quite a lot. And certainly as the years have gone by and the window rattling has gotten to be worse and the crack in my ceiling has appeared, and a crack that goes all the way from the base of our building to the 5th story that was recently repaired, began to illustrate for us the potential impacts on the built environment here. And I don't know how many of you live in condos. A few? It's a little frightening to think about what the impacts could be. It's enough with what we have going on today, and I think how many we had, 36 launches so far this year. That number's projected to increase by quite a wide margin, and with the first tower being built out for Starship, it's really important that we reflect on what's happening in Texas today as a result of Starship launches, and there have only been a few. So as that becomes a part of our world here, and the impacts on South Padre Island have been investigated and even studied by Brigham Young University with some recent really important findings. In November of last year, they issued a report in the, they published it in the Journal of Acoustical Society of America, where they registered that the impacts of launches there is about 10 times what a Falcon 9 launch is in a single launch. Over 100 decibels in South Padre Island, far away. That's about the equivalent of a gunshot right beside you, or fireworks at 500 feet away. So it's really crucially important that we pay close attention to what this means to our environment going forward. The other issue, of course, is that we have, the natural world around us. We're working hard to protect our river. We're working really hard to protect all the other important environmental aspects here, including wildlife. And I know that that's not the purview of this city council, but it certainly is related and is something we should be looking to our friends in the state to be thinking about as well. So I have been thinking about this a lot and have been reaching out to poor Zach. Thank you so much for listening. Reaching out to him with some regularity on this issue, and am delighted to hear that he has made forward progress in finding ways for us to do what has been done in Texas today, and that's to monitor what happens seismically and sonically around launches to ensure that we have some recourse as a city, as residents, as homeowners, and as the built environment here to assure that if we see impacts, we are able to address them and address them with those who have the right and authority to respond. So those are my comments, and I thank you very much.
Thank you. comment card I had for that one, so we'll go ahead and close public participation, bring it back. Councilmember Jackson.
Thank you so much for coming here tonight. We have had plenty of our citizens that have been really concerned. I myself had cracks all around my slider now. So it's a scary thought with the power of this rocket. I had followed the Boca Chica Village plight that they've had for years, and they are getting reported damage as far as Port Isabel, Texas, which is 150 miles away from the launch pad. So literally, there are lines set up for making claims and that sort of thing. So I cannot tell you once again, thank you so much for coming. And I can't tell everyone how appreciative I am with Zach doing the work that he's done on this. We have clay pipes, we have clay storm pipes, we have older infrastructure. He has recognized this, and I am absolutely thrilled with the progress that he's made with what we're about to see tonight. So, Zach, I just had to throw that in. I'm so excited. I couldn't wait until after you spoke. So that's what I have.
And thank you. Council, any other comments before Zach? Interim City Manager, we're good?
Yeah, we're good. I'll just say it is concerning because the house, I live in Cocoa Beach, and the windows are shaking pretty darn good down there. And there's supposed to be, I think, 120 launches. I thought I read something. And she said there was 36, and it's going to be like 120. It's concerning. So I think this study will be very important, very important.
And what they told us in a tour that Zach and I both were in, they were shooting for something like 360-something launches by 2027. So that's a lot of launches. So,
Zach, the floor is yours.
Thank you. And thank you to the residents that came out tonight. So, a lot of what we try and do here is to mitigate risk, but we can't mitigate risk if we don't understand the risk in the first place. So this is our first steps at trying to understand what is exactly happening in regards to the rocket launches that are occurring right next door, quite literally. The city owes its identity to space travel and the space economy. We're certainly supportive of it and like to see what it's done for the area, but we do need to understand as it grows what it will do to us. And we have a lot of older infrastructure that will certainly feel impacts from this. Just some of the things that I wanted to highlight. Last year, there were 93 rocket launches that occurred from either the Kennedy Space Center or the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. This year, it will be upwards of 120. And these are mostly with rockets that are not even Starship. The FAA recently released a draft environmental assessment that analyzes the possibility of 120 Falcon 9 launches annually alone from Space Launch Complex 40 at the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station, an increase of 70 launches annually, with 34 of those set to be booster returns to the landing zone, which create the sonic booms. So that's with Falcon 9 alone, let alone companies like Blue Origin or Rocket Lab or United Launch Alliance. And then comes the real big question, literally and figuratively, Starship. So Starship is set to most likely make flights out of the Cape. SpaceX is shooting for 2025. Realistically, it'll probably be 2026. But they are in active development of their launch pad right now at Pad 39A and would like to also take flights out from Space Launch Complex 37, which is a few miles closer to the city. And they do intend to do dozens of Starship launches per year from here, probably making it their primary location because I don't think residents in the Caribbean enjoy the Starship blowing up over them that much anymore as it has the last few times. So I think SpaceX would prefer to shoot it off from the Atlantic coast instead of over the Gulf to mitigate their risk from any potential launch failure. What this study will see is basically the Florida Institute of Technology, which is one of the premier engineering schools in the country, right next door to us in Melbourne. They will come in with a team of researchers to include student researchers, and they will start installing at public facilities and in private properties of our choosing with written consent. Instrumentation to analyze air quality impacts, structural vibrations, accelerometers, seismographs, things of that nature to see what is going on. We really want to see what's going on with Starship, but this will show us what's going on with any type of rocket launch, because the sensors won't just be turned on for a Starship launch. They'll go all the time, 24/7. So that will be really nice. And they'll also conduct a literature review for the city to take any type of data and analysis that's been done already, which there has, just in Texas, not here. And they'll give us that, and then the data collection will continue for at least a year. And everything that will be analyzed will be made public through the city with a report handed to us. I do think we need to do this sooner rather than later, given that SpaceX does tend to work fast. They go quite quickly. And given the prominence of Mr. Musk in the administration, I think they'll move even faster at this point. So, you know, it's going to happen. We also have rockets like Blue Origin's New Glenn that will take off from Space Launch Complex 36, which is very close to the city. That one is at the about the tip of the geographical Cape Canaveral. And that is also a very large rocket. That's one of the largest rockets ever built. And they want to do that with regularity as well. So looking at multiple launches here with vehicles that could affect the stability of the city. We'll probably end up installing some of these at City Hall, the Water Reclamation Facility, the Community Center, and then probably a few others at some private locations to see what is happening there. I also want to point out that, you know, if we were to use a private engineering firm, I think the cost of this would be at least 3 times what we're getting for FIT, which is great. So we'll probably save a lot of money here. And what we could have in terms of data, because knowledge is power, we will be able to use in the future if anything does happen. And also to point out that this is to monitor launches and landings, but also it would give us amazing data, and hopefully it never happens. But if a launch vehicle was to fail on the pad or near the ground, that would be a very large boom, and one that we don't want to deal with. So if, God forbid, that ever happened, we would be able to record that in this study period. So that's really all I have. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I have a question for you, Zach.
Yes.
So would it be beneficial for us to have one of the monitoring stations further north in the city, closer to the port and closer to the beach side, since we have Blue Origin out there, so that we could compare the north end of the town to further south, like at the community center?
Yes, so the sensors would be spaced geographically across the city in a strategic way that would show us the sound waves going through the city from north to south, so we could see what the difference is from one end to the other, and get that data both in an east-west, north-south direction. So the reason we have language in here for public and private properties, again, with consent, is that, you know, we don't have any public facilities really at the extreme northeast section of the city, so that's where we'd have to rely on installing these at, like, say, a private condo association, so that we could get the best data and the closest data that we can, and compare that to a site further south, say at like City Hall.
Okay. And then a second question I have for you, and that probably will end up being it. I know that in Boca Chica and some of the surrounding cities, that they have the ability to file claims with SpaceX when damage occurs to private and public property. Do you know, I know that the city has sent a letter that you were actively involved with. Have we gotten any kind of response on that?
We've sent a few letters, actually, and we have not received a response.
Okay. And if that does come to fruition, will this data, I would think this data would help us with recovering any type of damage to property.
That would be the hope, yeah.
Okay. Thank you. That's what my question was.
Thank you. Councilmember Willis.
And follow on to that, can we get any anecdotal information on insurance claims from Texas?
Yes, I think we could do. I think that could be a part of the literature review and what they're doing. And I think we, as a staff, could also follow up with our municipal friends over in Texas to see what they're doing. Brownsville, South Padre Island, things like that. Port Isabel, I believe, is the one. And see how they've done it, since they have a year or two under their belt now with some Starship launches. So, yeah.
Well, the problem's going to be getting reimbursed from SpaceX or whomever.
Right.
It's going to take a lot longer than it even would for an insurance company.
Absolutely. Probably
So-
similar way to how a hurricane is reimbursed.
Once your home has been damaged, you can't sit and wait around
No.
for a government agency to deal with it.
No, it's a good
We
point.
need the data.
It's similar to how FEMA works with a hurricane.
Yes.
It takes forever.
And when you speak with those cities down there, if we can find out what they have in place, if anything, to help those citizens that have damaged property, that'd be good to know, like you were saying.
Well, I was about as far north as I can get in the city and pretty darn close to, but, you know, we're all dealing with it. I think we have a public comment again.
Yes.
Yes, please.
And if anyone else chooses to speak on this, you please you come forward. Yes, Ms.
Thank you.
Lillian.
I just wonder, given that the city attorney is here, if there might be some opportunity to ask or even demand, once we have some baseline data, that SpaceX and perhaps even the other municipalities, that SpaceX establish a fund in each of the domains or areas, regions of the country, that would be drawn down by local municipalities to help with these things, both in municipal infrastructure and in homeowner claims, so that they are the insurer of record and not insurance companies as the insurer of record. So it would be a recommendation I'd make for associating city attorneys to try to address this in a collaborative way.
Thank you.
That's a very good point, because anytime we as citizens are going to make claims on our insurance, it's going up. And we're already facing difficulties with a lot of people being able to reside here. So let's don't add any more to it.
Sounds like reparations funding almost.
Well, I think the complexity of this is even greater than that, because say you have damage to your condo and now you're going to get it fixed. Well, the launches are just going to continue. So this could be very repetitive. So you're looking at something that's like, it happened, now it's done and it's gone away. This is going to just be, this is a way of life here. We all know that. So this is a very complex issue. Very complex.
Can I ask one question?
Absolutely.
Can I ask where your address is? Okay, thank you. I thought it was mine. Okay, thank you.
And I have one more question for Zach.
Councilmember Davis, good? Yes, Councilmember Jackson?
And Zach, do we know when the EIS will be back? We've been being promised that since last December.
We have.
It's when it was supposed to be.
We have, and we don't know. They still haven't made a final decision on whether or not they will. So construction of the launch tower has resumed at Pad 39A at Kennedy. They've started to build the flame trench and the launch mount where the vehicle will take off from. The big decision is Space Launch Complex 37, where the old Delta IV Heavy used to lift off with United Launch Alliance. SpaceX has acquired that pad on the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station and is looking to disassemble it and rebuild it with a launch tower suitable for Starship. That's the one that concerns me more, if that's the one gets approved. The alternative is they build a completely new pad slightly further north that would be called Space Launch Complex 50. That doesn't exist at the moment. And then there is a third scenario, which is a do-nothing scenario, but we know they won't take that option. So that's the one that we're waiting on to see what they want to do, and that's one of the ones that we did send a letter for, saying basically, hey, what are you going to do if something happens? And we have not heard back. They also, like I said earlier, it's in the agenda cover, the FAA did release another environmental assessment for subsequent Falcon 9 launches from LC-40. There's actually a public virtual meeting for that tomorrow at 6 that I was going to sit on and see what they are saying about that, but we haven't heard back yet.
Would you mind sending me the link to that?
Sure.
Thank you.
Absolutely fascinating. I'm just all of it. We learn that, and I think we are learning that just one of the risks is the vibration.
That's a big one.
And the hairline fraction, to our interim city manager's point, if you notice some cracking in your wall on a Falcon 9 or something, to your point,
right?
When the 100-footer steps, the Starship steps up, right? And we heard the decibel, 100 feet, 100 decibels at 500 feet or whatever it is. I mean, substantially more. That hairline fracture that maybe you don't notice or whatever, it's only going to more than likely continue. And so they're going to help us understand, look into, what are the risks, things we may not even be thinking about. Animals,
that's true.
Trees, nature, just the impacts of that is all. And, my mind jumps to, when humans intervene for the betterment, there's times where we have to intervene. There's negative externalities, negative problems. The port is an excellent example of digging that canal back in the 50s. And since then, we celebrate sea oats and the sand dredging timely that just finished, or that class action, lawsuit.
That's a good example of something in the past.
And it's this intervention, but, Cape Canaveral's on the front lines, and we're over here talking about our different properties, but zooming out, we're all a big star right there. And so I really appreciate Councilmember Jackson and anyone who's been involved in this. I haven't even really registered. 120 launches. I've heard, 2 or 3 a day. The open competitiveness of the space industry and the expansions we're seeing at the county in Space Florida with the sewage and those environmental issues of Sykes Creek and capacity. So thank you. And thank you for getting this in front of us, and Lillian, all your comments and efforts to understand it, right? That's what this is about, because it's a lot, without the data, without the evidence, it's very difficult. This is always the debates in college and schools. Yeah, but how would you prove it?
Right.
You can't. And so I think we're going to learn a lot. And just my input is wherever the sensors are, is that there's, and I know there will be some thought. You wouldn't want to some lagoon side, certainly northern side, as you said, Councilmember Jackson, southern side, we're beach side. And the different types of structures, how they might impact a single-family home versus a condo versus a townhouse. We kind of got some diversity up here on where we
Versus our
live.
infrastructure.
Yeah.
And
our pipes.
The clay pipe, all that is
That's a good point. We'll get a diversity of structures. I think a lot of condos are representative of each other. A lot of them were built around the same time. And then you can compare that to, a building like the community center, which is brand new, cinder block, hurricane-proof windows through and through, steel. What does it look like in that building? So you can get a good diversity of structural analysis.
Now, if it down in the Center Street Basin, a little crack starts to form in the street and all that flood water goes down, we're not going to complain about that.
That's right.
All jokes aside, thank you.
I would like to make a motion that we approve the $10,019.10 to work with FIT for the deliverables that Zach has discussed.
I'll second.
Okay, got a motion by Councilmember Jackson and a second by Councilmember Willis to essentially approve as written and proposed. Mayor Pro Tem Kellum.
Yes, I have a few things that I've thought about, excuse me, through looking through this. We live next to the port. The port is majorly gearing up to help the Space Center, to provide more things for the Space Center. You say that things are happening in Padre Island and all that. Do we have data on how they are recouping losses that they have? Do we have any information on that? My other thing is, what can we what is the recourse? If we come up with this and it says, we get all this information and they say, oh, this is bad or whatever, are we going to stop the Space Center from doing what they're doing? And that the money that they bring into the county, to our city, to the state? And the $10,000 for the study, I just think it's not that much money, like Zach says. If we had it from, an engineering company, it would be much more. But right now, I think the $10,000, I would like to see us spend that money, maybe with a college or whether, to analyze the air quality and the things that are happening in this end of town with the giant rock mountains behind neighbors that are in their yard, and they're breathing this stuff, and it's affecting their real estate value of their homes. I think that's more personal and something we can actually do something about. And I would like to see the money, the $10,000 spent on something like that. I just don't see what the recourse would be. I mean, I understand cracks in condos. My house was built in 1962 in Harbor Heights, which is north. I have cracks in my house, but, things settle. And how would you prove that it came from, the Space Center? I just think that it's a lot of money right now, $10,000. And we need, we have cardboard coverings in the Nancy Hansen over electric boxes that we could spend that money right now. I mean, down the road, if maybe in the next budget, we could allocate money for that. But right now, I can't see spending that kind of money on something that, in the end, what's it going to do? What are we going to do? Are we going to stop SpaceX? And I mean, we're in the race for Mars. It's happening. And, people that come and live here, it's called the Space Coast. It's, I hear it all the time. And, how many shuttle launches did we have? And it shook the windows. And I just think I can't support the money for that right now when we have other things that really need attention. And I'm really concerned about those houses down there with those rock piles behind them, and they just keep getting bigger and bigger. And these people, they have asthma, they can't breathe, they're moving out of their houses. It's just, I can't support that money for that right now. But I understand where you're coming from, and it's very important. I just think the money could be used for other things that we need right now.
Thank you for that, Mayor Pro Tem.
Mayor?
Yes, sir, Interim City Manager.
Yeah. Let me add some perspective to this. And if there needed to be a study or for what you had, Mayor Pro Tem, we do have the dollars available, and we have this $10,000 available. But I would just want to look at it in this context, is that the space industry and the launches are only going to increase. And if it causes internal damages to structures, it's good that a study like this takes place, because we can see the intensity and how far this is going. Because if they could get an idea, if just based on the launches we have now is causing this much damage, and as they increase, then they can measure that, and if it's going this much. The only thing I would say, and God forbid it ever happened, if a structure ever collapsed then that's where there'd be a national outcry, like what happened in Miami when that condo collapsed, and then now these guys have all these expenses, right? They got to have certain things done or whatever. So the point I'm making is that the attention has to be brought just for the safety and concern of those, because we don't know what the long-term effect will be when this stuff increases and these rockets get bigger. So I think the study is well worth it, and this is money well spent. I mean, peace of mind. And I only think that this is probably going to get even more fiercer. And, it's better to be monitoring something like this than, God forbid, somebody's house collapses or something. You just never know. That's my 2 cents.
I'll say too, you bring up good points, Councilmember Kellum. It's good points. In regards to the space shuttle, which happened, it was a 30-year program, great success for that. The space shuttle comparatively only flew a handful of times a year. And when you're now talking about a vehicle that could launch upwards of 50 times per year, that is 3 times as powerful, that becomes a problem. And should, as the city manager said, there ever be a situation where, God forbid, there was an incident and we don't have this, that's it. Those calls are coming. And we best be prepared for that. I'm not saying that's going to happen. You just always want to be cautious about it, because if Starship went off once or twice, boom, program's over, failed, whatever, done. Yeah, I don't think it'd be that big of an issue. But when you're talking about that regularity, that is something that needs to be monitored. And I think a really good example is Port Canaveral and what they did with the harbor cut. That cut off the beach's natural ability to renourish itself. And the city of Cocoa Beach, and I think one other entity, they did do something about it. They went up against Goliath, and they got something back. And we now have beach renourishment every few years because they made a damage to our city, and they're paying for it now through the federal government, the Army Corps of Engineers, to give us a beach so that homes don't fall into the ocean every few years. So I think it sets us up strategically. The issues you're talking about with those rocks are definitely pertinent. But in terms of a threat to the city, this impacts everybody. You, everybody, this building. So it's a long-term strategic mitigation strategy for us to be ready, just in case the worst ever happens. And when there is that level of frequency, air travel, great example. One of the safest, if not the safest form of travel in the world, but stuff does happen. So when you increase the frequency of these things, it increases the frequency of risk that something bad could happen. That's all I got.
And it would give us a gauge to go by, because if it happens on the backside and we've had all of this vibration that has increased and we've done nothing beforehand to judge what it was with the number of launches we have now, we don't have much argument. We can't, how are we going to prove that those things happen or it potentially caused it? Whereas, and Boca Chica has gone through quite a bit of that, and there were even, discussions of Elon buying the entire village, and there were some holdouts, and there were about half the people that sold out and weren't happy because they didn't get the money they wanted. And they were very similar to this community, where they were this small town on the beach, but they didn't have cruise ships and all this, they just had nature. And they're saying, we can't find a place anywhere that is like what we had. And so as we look at that and look at what happened down there, because there were a mile from the launch pad, there was debris landing in people's yards when they first started. And as we increase that frequency, like Zach is talking about, we're talking about a massive rocket. When you look at the information he included, this is a massive rocket. This isn't a little guy. And that's where we have to think, in my opinion, we have to think ahead. When we talk about condos and we talk about cracks and things like that and damage, yes, we all know building your house on sand, it's going to settle. But we also have many condo complexes in this city right now spending millions of dollars to do concrete restoration due to the SBD4 legislation. And if it's got a crack in it now and they do the restoration for it and it vibrates again and gets another crack, it's going to be unsustainable for the condo complexes to keep fixing those with what they're having to pay right now to do that, because there are people with assessments that are getting hit with $50,000 down south. I haven't heard of anyone here, but I know down south there was a $400,000 assessment. In Ormond Beach there was a $200,000 assessment, and you can't even sell your condo that way. Now, with the number of condos we have in the city, if we aren't proactive to be able to define how much vibration are we getting before they start sending up this starship, we have no gauge at all. And that's the reason that I support it, is because to prove anything, you have to have a before and after to really prove anything. I know there's a lot of things in the city that we need right now, but I think that in protecting our city for any potential damage, after what I've investigated that's happening in Texas, that this is a smart move. So I'm in favor, and I already made a motion, so I'll hush.
Yeah, we got the motion on the floor to approve, and we're in the discussion. Councilmember Willis or Davis? No. My comments in response to Mayor Pro Tem and some of the comments that we had today are, I agree with you on the air quality issue. As far as priority, relevance, control, we actually within our environment, what we have, those issues need to be resolved. Our role in that is where I'm a little gray. I want to do something, you know me, and that's salient, and we've been made aware. And I know that the former city manager and I had talked about some sensors and some things. So as we head in, well, this Thursday is our budget workshop, right? The first one, 17th. Let's make sure that we can go in and tackle whatever our role is. And maybe our city attorney can help understand where that is at that time. But thank you for bringing that up. That's when I put those side by side, I agree. Where I think, but the substantiality of this massive rocket and the impacts and the benchmarking and the data point, I think we should do this as well. And I look at this, I'm like, geez, why do this is a federal program that's, on federal property. And I think the worst thing that could happen is $10,000 goes back. We get data that gives us some sort of confirmation or acknowledgement. But I agree, it's going to be very difficult. However, we at least have a chance. And it's not, war on the space program. We love our space. We support it. It's going to grow. I think we just don't want to be in a position to where shoulda, coulda, and, there's still a chance at that point in the event. You can go through. But my hope is that I will learn more. I know Councilmember Jackson and Zach and everyone who's been, Lillian, involved as a public, is that if there are other entities, I just had a chance to meet at the Congressman Herodopoulos, our new U.S. Congress, asked to meet with some of the mayors within the Port District over, and Captain Murray at the port. And one of his big open questions is just, how can I help? What can we do? We just got back. And before circling back, we were supposed to set a time and meet again. And this might be something that I want to plant that seed. What is the Fed's role here? And certainly the state. the $10,000? Is there a grant? Is there anything that we can do to get that money back to address Mayor Pro Tem Kellum's concern? With or without it, I think I do think it's a good move and a good opportunity with them to learn, and if we can somehow work to recoup those dollars, or say, why is Little Old Cape Canaveral footing this bill? Well, it impacts our residents and businesses and community and geography and wildlife and quality of life overall. And I think that there's going to be avenues. Certainly the port is, to your point, whether you're northeast Shorewood, I would think, Jetty Park is technically the most northeastern on this side of the channel. And Councilmember Willis, I think you're on the other side of the lagoon, most northern, and Councilmember Jackson just south. I guess I'm the most southern. I'll be impacted the least, but I think it's a good plan. It does come with some risk, but those issues that you raised, I would rather cut other things or trade off other things than this one. And I think if we do a good job, and FIT is going to be far better than me about, making the diversity and making sure that we're approaching it from an academic standpoint. I have a lot of confidence in that program and in the relationships that we've already seen and in some of the things that they've helped us with. So this is an impact study that's, just to recap, $10,000 roughly. Timeline, I think May 26th, I think it would be a start.
We'd start tomorrow, and then it would go for about a year to next May. And then we could continue it if you want, or we could discontinue it. It's to see how it goes.
And in that period of time, we'll have an estimated 90 launches roughly?
Probably more.
Yeah.
Probably 150.
Okay.
Some of them will be New Glenn, which is outside Starship, one of the largest vehicles ever made. And there will probably be at least 1 or 2 Starship launches from the Cape by that point.
It's massive. Yeah. And
It's twice the size of the Saturn V rocket, which brought us to the moon in the first place.
Thank you for your illustration on the last page there. That's really eye-opening. But New Glenn, 45 feet double.
There'll also be a Space Launch System launch, which is NASA's primary vehicle with the Orion capsule and part of the Artemis program. Artemis 2 will go off with the first manned crew to orbit the moon since '72. So that is also not a small rocket.
One of the comments that's relevant to this was in our advertisement for the city manager. And how did I connect it to this? When we say that, we're selling Cape Canaveral, which we all love Cape Canaveral. And we talked about the proximity to the space pad. I think it was less than a couple miles it mentioned in that program. And it was probably, it's at least 5 miles, but it is a couple. 29A, which I don't know if Astra or one of the smaller programs
Astra,
in New Glenn. Assuming that one's, is that the closest one? If it is, will there be any operations on that one this year?
I don't know about Astra, probably, because there's a lot of year left. But Astra is a very small rocket comparatively. I wouldn't be too concerned about them. New Glenn would be my biggest concern to the closest launch pad.
Which is
Launch Complex 36.
36, okay.
That's the one with the giant blinky towers when you look out across the beach and there's a water tower. It's actually, I believe it's the tallest water tower in the world, believe it or not, at that pad.
I watched that last launch. It was incredible.
Yeah.
We have front row seats. I guess my question was, Launch Complex 29 and 25 are the two that are the closest at a bird's eye view. I could be wrong on that. I'm just looking here.
Those might be inactive pads.
If they're okay.
Left over from the space race.
So that would be the ones that if anything ever popped up there and became after the 26th of the year, that would certainly. But again, the benchmarking, if we got data further away from us, we could make some assumptions and at least back into
Right.
to assess that risk. So I've said enough.
I think, I'll say one more thing too, and then I'll be quiet. But I think another good applicable example is we can't stop hurricanes, but why do we study them? To try and make ourselves safer. We've changed building codes. We've changed building codes to deal with them. You know, not saying we changed building codes based on this, but, you know, if things got to a point where it's like, okay, we have to have the city here, we have to have a functioning space program here, how do they live together? This is the start of how we figure that out. So, that's all I got.
Mayor, if I may, before we close this out and you vote on this, would the council be supportive of, we're going to do this study to make it more publicly known that the city of Cape Canaveral is taking part in this study because it's concerned with the effects of the launches? Would you want to go to that length to publicize it more, or no?
I'm open, just in my head, my thoughts, the city attorneys weigh in the legal things we may not be
Okay.
thinking of is the only thing I pause at. But yeah, as far as the marketing, or
Like if Zach's going to be saying, hey, somehow through some venue, just to let you know, this study's going on and the city of Cape Canaveral's taking note of the effects, the potential effects of this.
Yeah, I mean, the public will know one way or another. They'll know right now. We're talking about right now
Yeah.
in a public meeting. Other cities have done this, obviously in Texas. So, you know, I don't think it's an issue that people know we're doing this. I think it's a proactive approach, and I think it'd make a lot of people feel good that we're doing it. And then all the data will be made available through FIT's reports. So I don't see why not.
And the last thing is what Mayor Pro Tem brought up. I do support that, Mayor Pro Tem, but I think that's something when we talk on Thursday in the CIP meeting, let's see what avenue we have to go down to, maybe get something in the budget in 1 October for that.
And I had one comment on that because I was thinking of it. When this came up before council prior, our ex-city manager had said we have money for the air quality tests and we were going to be moving forward on that back then. So did anything occur with that?
I don't believe it did. It might have gotten lost in the shuffle with their departure.
Right.
But you know me, I love sensors. If we want to get that train back on the tracks, we can talk about that.
I do remember that he was going to pursue that.
I don't recall anything that went forward with that. I would have known because he would have come to me for the money. So I don't believe, I don't remember that ever being pursued.
Okay, I wasn't sure if it got budgeted for or not.
But we can definitely do that.
Okay, thank you. I think it's valid as well.
Something for Thursday.
I believe that we were supposed to be getting some concession from Martin Marietta or whomever to install them on their property near the residents.
That's
Yeah.
what I remember talking
Yeah,
to.
Well, also,
one-on-ones.
it's a code enforcement issue too, because they're encroaching further than they should be.
Yes.
And I, the city manager addressed it and code enforcement addressed it. And then we had the big change and now it's moving again. So it's something that we need to stay on top of, but, those people are suffering there and, a lot of people are moving or, there's older people there that can't breathe from that dust and it's important, so.
We need to definitely take care of that.
Well, thank you, and I think we'll have that in front of us here soon. It's certainly at the top of everyone's mind, and thank you again. In regards to this, the motion on the floor is to approve it as written. It'll be for a year, and we'll communicate it. It's public. And I was just reading in there about, anything using the city COFIT. We've done this. They have our approval prior. We got that in the agreement, and not concerned anyways about that. I'm excited about it. Mayor Pro Tem Kellum, if we can get those other ones through, your concerns, do you?
Yeah, I mean,
Can we get?
Zach made a good point, why do we study hurricanes? So, we can't stop them, that's for sure. But yes, I see where, I just am concerned with the things in the city that really need our attention, but I will support this.
Thank you. Anything else, council? Okay. And Lillian, thank you again if you're still here for your comments. Zach, thank you, and all who've been involved. City Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Davis.
4.
Councilmember Jackson.
4.
Mayor Pro Tem Kellum.
4.
Mayor Morrison.
4.
And Councilmember Willis.
4.
All right, that was item 8B, passes unanimously, 5-0. Approving the agreement between the City of Cape Canaveral and FIT to begin actively monitoring rocket launch impacts to the built environment. This is great. Thank you again. And with that, we can move on now to item 8C, 6 solar light fixtures. Graybar First Light Technologies proposal, and it's a motion to consider the approval of a proposal from Graybar First Light Technologies in the amount of $34,203.56 for the purchase of 6 solar light fixtures to replace the existing lights in the parking lot at Manatee Sanctuary Park. Mr. Interim City Manager, anything here? We got the agenda. We need to go over a highlight.
No, if Molly would like to say anything about this, it's a budgeted item. We've been waiting to do it, and I appreciate staff getting all the legwork done so we can move forward.
Council?
Is it in this budget? The 24-25?
CIP PRCA 6. For 30,000.
Oh, it's right in the summary, CIP PRCA 6.
Yeah.
Budgeted cost of 30,000, and this one's over.
Yeah, it's a bit over.
Okay.
Yes, Councilmember Jackson?
On these lights, since there's no images of the lights themselves, we have some, Tim, don't you get mad at me. We have some solar lights on Ridgewood and throughout the city, and they don't give out much light, and it makes it very dark in certain areas. So I was wondering on these lights if it's that same type of light, because these are solar.
So I just to chime in, it's the IMS. Oh, no, sorry, just jumped a page. So they're about $3,600 for,
6 of them.
yeah, for those 6. We have the 2008-9 OG, the solar lights that are put on Ridgewood with the larger module, the panel on top. Those are like wind sails. A lot of those through tornadoes and hurricanes went out. And I think after, 10 years, there's warranties on those inverters that are built in, and the ability started to go out, and some technical problems above my head went out and had some trouble with parts getting them. And then those bigger ones with the kind of the traditional dome were replaced with a smaller, more efficient. I don't know if there was a difference in lumens. I know those old ones, you're right, those were orange and low light, turtle friendly, but you'll have a big LED FPL light right down in the halo and the glow of that. And then this one, some of them are low. I'd love to be able to control lights eventually, but yes, good question. Are they going to be similar to those new versions, Tim?
All right, so I'm glad you brought this up. The ones on Ridgewood were purposely bought for Ridgewood to be turtle friendly, and they're only for the pedways, not roadways, not parking lots. So they're a lot lower
Okay.
ambience wise. The ones for parking lot, if you go out to our wastewater treatment facility at night, it's lit up, and believe it or not, it's all solar. So those are the kind of heads where you're probably most likely going to use in a parking lot. They also have another light that they've come out with, which is called a BFL. I'm not going to say what that stands for, but that's what they called it. But that one is a roadway light, and that one's like really powerful. But that's not the one we're using here. It's going to be for, she's going to be using the one for parking lots that has a good, and I agree, the ones with the sails, you know, they kind of outdated themselves. And I remember going over to this brand afterwards, and the only reason I did that is because it was more low profile. Since we're hurricane prone, we're on the shore or on the beach. They're easier to take down. They're on hinged poles, believe it or not. But yeah, I think they'll be a lot better than what we have out there right now.
Okay, I just want to make sure, because there are spots of Ridgewood that if there's not an FPL, you're totally in the dark. And it's that's scary for a lot of people, and they tell us that. They tell me that. Okay, the other question, so these go in the parking lot at Manatee Park. And the park, doesn't that have a gate? Well, no, we changed the gate closing at dusk, right? That's open for the Chargers now. So that's why we need the lights. Okay, I wanted to make sure I was thinking, I have it right on that. Thank you.
I just wanted to come up and speak on the lights themselves. I've done a lot of studies with them and stuff like that, and trying to find the best priced lights, but the ones that will last the longest but won't cost the city long term because they're solar powered.
Thank you. Do we know the water? So that's obviously on the Ridgewood side, closer to the beach, those orange turtle-friendly lights. You referenced the ones at the wastewater treatment facility. Do we know what the wattage or the lumens of those are?
I can get that for you if you want.
Will
I
these,
don't know it off the top of my head.
Will these be as bright as those?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. If you're going with the IPL, I think it's the IPL. Do you have that in there? Or the schematic? SEL2s. Okay.
SCL2. Okay, yeah. I have no idea what that means, but I see SCL2 here. Okay.
Each one,
Yeah.
each one has its own little, 3-letter code on it.
Product number. Okay, so my question is we talked about lights, solar, it was like 2 or 3 years ago. Prioritizing lights, just to recap, we talked about phase 1 was fix all broken lights, and we phased out the older ones they reached 10 years. And then we were going to, this was more, I don't know if we deliberated, talked about it, but then focused on the dark spots in the city. Like we might need to add lights, or we have, too much light, 2 lights inefficient because it was used to space, and we've went through and got to different places. These lights, the inventory or of all of our solar lights, do we know if they're all operating and functioning? City, I guess.
June, I would let you.
The Ridgewood group.
I know that there's still quite a few lights that I've seen as I drive around that are still the old style. The new styles haven't been put, and I believe most of those are on North Atlantic Avenue, if I'm not mistaken. But what's that? Mostly replaced.
What was that? The last thing you said?
We have a few left to go.
Okay.
And 3 of these are unoperational.
At Manatee Park? So they're installed, but they're not working?
No. There's lights that have been out at Manatee Sanctuary Park in the parking lot for over a year. We're replacing those. They don't work,
3 of them.
at least.
at Manatee Park.
Yeah, it's in the description, it's in the
Yes.
summary.
Yeah, I do, total replacement cost for all solar lights.
Because we also have a program out there that operates in the evening, and as they're walking to their vehicles, it is dark.
So,
This is only for the parking lot lights in Manatee Sanctuary Park.
got it. Wherever there are, those should be replaced. My thing is, we want to replace them all and buy them all. And so on this purchase order, if the next time we do a log or an inventory, a survey, we did to
I don't know if the parks were part of Public Works inventory,
Yeah.
if that's the question.
it wasn't on, so we said all solar lights, but to your point, it was Ridgewood. I remember kind of 15 out, and these were a lot of the old ones, and then now we've got it down to maybe one or two. I would want to, and this is a dark spot issue, people leaving, definitely want to do that, but make sure we got enough inventory to replace all the lights that are not working, that are solar powered, assuming it is a few more. So are we out of inventory or do we still got some?
We still have a longitude number.
Oh, that's great. So to your point, Parks and Rec, I guess, looking at it citywide,
And that's a question I have. Why would Parks and Rec be handling lights when we've got a Public Works group? Wouldn't Public Works handle lights? And that
They
way we
might
make
be.
sure that we have inventory for the entire city, whether it's a park or a street?
Molly's just referring to the park.
And
June is
and-
referring to Public Works.
No, I understand. I just don't understand
And
why.
Public Works assisted me with getting the quotes and identifying which ones needed to be replaced and
No.
which ones were outside of their serviceable
And
lifespan.
I understand that. I'm just questioning why we have lights broken up between two groups. To me, makes more sense for one group that handles lights to handle it. But I get it.
I think it was more budgetary because
Do
this
the
is my
budget.
CIP over a Public Works or an infrastructure maintenance. But June can speak to that. She's been here a lot longer.
Okay.
Yeah, it's mostly budget, but we help Molly out.
Okay.
I mean, she just has to let us know, we'll help her out, but Dave does all the checks, or we have one of the guys in IM that does one of the checks.
So it's strictly for budgeting out of the right bucket, okay?
That's, pretty much it.
I support replacing all lights, that's all I'm saying. And so,
Absolutely.
and I do like the solar lights, because when the power goes out, if the grid goes out, those things are working. And, I think that technology in 2010, it's advanced so much. Literally, that panel was like this big, and you get the same power in 10%
Right,
of
they
the
keep on getting
area.
smaller.
And so much more efficient, and you could put as many kilowatts and watts on them and power them up, I think, as we heard, we want. So we're going to be talking budget. This conversation that I think we're having is going to come back up here, if not this week, when we circle back for the workshop. But being able to make one purchase order for all the lights if needed, you might have enough inventory, whatever's left over. That's going to be a priority this year for me, is to see what it would cost to get them all working, and then also get out of this, we need 3 more lights game, maybe store some inventory so we don't have to keep coming back, so.
The inventory is what I was getting at with why we're not doing it together. Because if we're going to do this, if it's due to the budget bucket, I want to make sure that if we shouldn't have lights out for a year in a park. We should have, we should have 1 or 2 to at least go in and make it brighter than it is, so
Yeah,
that we don't
extra.
have any kind of, public safety issues with that. So I hate hearing that. I want to make sure we have extras for them included, however we need to do it, budget.
Going forward, we'll make a mass procurement So the mayor, like the mayor says, if there's multiple lights out, we'll do a mass procurement, get the best cost, and then, of course, get everything we need. And if we need reserves, then we'll have reserves too. So that's how I'll operate. But we are, we are budget department driven, but we also want to do things smartly and get the best price.
That's what my next question is, do we get a discount, based on quantity?
I believe anytime you
Gray
buy
Bar
in big
usually
quantities,
does.
you're going to get economies of scale.
Yeah, Gray Bar normally does, that's why I wanted to ask.
As long as they're all the same lights. When you start switching lights, like the directors were saying, when you start mixing lights, they're different prices, then all those economies go away.
Right.
So,
Right.
yeah.
Okay.
Awesome, thank y'all. That was all I
Thank
had.
you.
Anything else for them while they're up here? Directors? Thank you. Okay, where are we? Have we had a motion yet?
No, I'll make a motion that we approve the proposal from Gray Bar to buy more lights for Manatee Park.
I'll second.
Got a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Kellum, second by Councilmember Davis. Any further discussion? Seeing none, City Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Davis.
4.
Councilmember Jackson.
4.
Mayor Pro Tem Callum.
4.
Mayor Morrison.
4.
And Councilmember Willis.
4.
Item 8C passes unanimously 5-0. To purchase some more lights. Thank you again, which takes us to item, I believe the final action item here, 8D, Records Management Software Laserfish Cloud Upgrade Quote. And it's the proposed motion to consider the approval of MCCI's quote dated March 25th, 2025, in the amount of $28,489.29 to upgrade the current Laserfish Avante system to the Laserfish Cloud Records Management Software. Mr. Interim City Manager, any overview or highlight needed here?
Only, Mayor, that I think if we need additional comments, whatever, I'm going to have Mike's going to come up, and even our city clerk can make a couple comments on this, because they could basically tell you what the driving point is for the Laserfish. And so let me know when you get to that point, and then he could come up and speak if.
Thank you. Council, any questions on this one?
Mike, would you like to come up and give your 4 cents? Everything's double now.
Good evening, Council. Just real quickly, from my standpoint, this is just a technical upgrade for, this would be moving us off of a server-based system to a cloud-based system. This would be very similar to what we did with our CRM recently. The primary users are not IT. The primary user is really the city clerk's office and the public. And this would be an improvement technically, a drastic improvement to the system we're currently using. The one we have is single source, and it's, quite frankly, the system is obsolete. The cost, I believe, went up 15% per this year. Is that correct? 15%? To stay on the baseline that we currently have. It was a substantial jump, an increase. And so from just an IT technical perspective, I believe it would be advantageous to us to switch over to a cloud-based system.
Thank you very much. City Clerk, question for you on, in your experience, have you worked in Laserfish prior to this, or did you use a different program?
No.
This is?
Yes. I did.
Okay. It seems that almost every city is using the MCCI code.
For the most part, yes, because I did a survey, and the majority of cities have been using this, and has the county as well. Not all, but most of them.
Thank you. Council?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir. Councilmember Willis.
I think it's a wise move to go to the cloud on this. It only going to enhance our efforts to be transparent and allow everyone access to records. And I think it would be beneficial to us and the public to go to the cloud. So.
That's great.
I was going to say the same thing, but same words, I agree with it.
That's important.
Is this, is it $28,000 a year? Or is it a one-time fee? Anybody know?
Is the initial purchase 28, it's 28,000?
The initial.
And what is the yearly?
The annual subscription?
Yeah, the annual subscription will be different.
Lower.
It's 22,000.
It's going to be lower. Because I think the current one we had, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'd have to look in the budget, is the current one we have like $5,000 a year or something? Is it, I don't even know.
$22,049.83 a year for the subscription. It is a grand total of $21,047.25, okay, for the service package. And then you see, they've given us some credits for support credits as well as training credits.
Yeah, I believe last year there was a change. The reason I'm trying to think, that, because of where we were at, we had like a $10,000 break. That's why I'm trying to think, is it $5,000 or $10,000? Because I remember in the budget, Mia and I actually were able to adjust the budget down by $5,000 or $10,000.
It looks like $5,840.77 for an estimated existing support credit. The thing that I'm trying to wrap my head around here is we've got $22,049.83 for the recurring annual support and subscription, but then it gives a grand total of $21,47.25. So is that, or those two different separate costs? It doesn't look like it with the way that the bottom line is with the total price. So that's where I'm trying to.
I see.
That's the MCCI service package.
And one's a support.
Right.
Right.
That's not the,
Okay,
I
so.
don't think the other, those are
just
the
for
other
my-
parts of those are, that we're incurring the cost for that, but I see where you're saying a recurring annual support subscription, 22,000. Laserfish Training Center. And this is where I'm a little bit confused, Mike or Esther, if you could help me out here when I'm looking at this. Is this whole package something like on page 5? Is this something this is recurring, so we get the same service every year? Is it the 22,000 or is it the?
It's a bundle packet, which is incorporating more than what we currently have.
Right, because there's a certain amount we're paying already because we have Laserfish, and then we would be giving that up to go to the cloud. That's the part that probably isn't reflected in here, Councilmember Jackson, to show you what the net would be.
Well, and that's why
Yeah.
this is the first time I've seen this, of course. I know y'all have just been working on it.
I think I have the net.
But I understand what the annual recurring subscription is. We know we're gonna have that every year. But when you come over to the service package, that's usually an addition. And you see it's got the data migration for moving us over, the records management configuration for them to go in and configure the cloud server for our account. The repository administrative training, user training, implementation management. So this is all implementation, which normally would be in addition to your subscription fee for a year, which would make that not what we're looking at bottom line for this. So So that's where I'm trying to understand. And then they came in and gave us all of our sport credits for this. So you'll see, where it's coming in and giving us the existing Laserfish software support credit total of $38,2619. Then it comes in and gives a subscription total of $2,014.59 for a total credit of $5,840.77. But it's like part of this is not added in unless they're not doing one of these things. Because over on the left page, on page 5, that's the annual subscription that is in here. The supplemental, oh, okay, wait a minute, here we go. Managed support, nope. Yeah, training center.
That's the recurring annual cost.
Right, I understand, I'm looking at, they've got
But then
the
they have the
license.
total Laserfish project cost, which includes the migration and our credits, which end up being $28,489.29. That would be this 1 year cost.
But that's not including the subscription cost.
Yeah, it is.
Where at? Where are you seeing?
Well, I mean, it's the grand total of that subscription, but you're bringing it in, or should be bringing it in.
Right, I think what's going on here is, so to get the cloud, and correct me if I'm wrong here, it will cost us $28,400 to go to the Laserfish cloud. Then what would happen within the budget is that whatever the Laserfish is now, whatever that cost is, we're being charged now, and my apologies, I should have that in front of me. That is going to be replaced by whatever the annual cost is for the cloud. That's where the differentiation would be for this. So we are paying the $28K for the cloud, but now as we move forward, what will it be in the budget each year? And so I would have to look at what we're paying right now, and I wish I had the computer with me look for the invoice, and then I would be able to differentiate between what we're paying now and what we will be paying, because that's going to be the difference. So the whole thing right now, council is voting on is the investment in the Laserfish cloud, but the piece that's missing is to convey to council what are we going to pay after that annually, because the old one's going to be removed and the new one's going to come in. Just like kind of what we did with BSNA Cloud. When we got that, we actually got money reduced because we went to the cloud and we didn't have the .NET anymore, which I think in that case was $46,000 we got credit for, something along those lines. So
The .NET version was costing us $46.
No. I'm just saying that based on what, the $46,000 was two parts. There was the 46,000. Mike, do you recall there was two figures. To bring on the cloud was what?
The total was about 98,000.
98,000.
And then, but over time, because we already had put money into it for the annual fee, it was 40-something thousand.
Right.
So that rolls down. And the longer we waited to approve it, our costs went down over that because we were burning money that we'd already spent, basically. So that over time that rolled down. So the longer we kicked that down the road, it was actually cheaper for us instead of going up in price. Just kind of the way the pricing model worked. And this is kind of a similar situation. Now, this one is not my project, so I really can't speak to the details to this. But when we did meet with MCCI, it was a very similar model in that there's an existing cost that we've already funded, and then that would be rolled into this cost. And then so it would lower the cost. Now, those I don't know the deltas on because, like I said, it's not my project.
Okay, to Councilmember Jackson's question.
I just broke it down.
We're-
And all of the, if you take the grand total plus the installation over on the right-hand page, total that, minus these credits, it's gonna bring you down to the 28,489,929. And then our annual subscription fee is over here under the 15,735.83, but they add in the managed support, site license, and see that site license won't be applicable next year for the 2,300 or the 2,790. So it'll be a little over the 1,500, 735.83 for next year. So it's all those credits that brought it down.
And in answer to your question, just to give you an idea, yeah, that BSNA, our manual maintenance fees for the year were like 21,000 every year for BSNA. So to answer Council Member Willis's question, so that was like 21,000 that we were paying for the BSNA net.
But it's
So now it's different, of course, because we have the cloud. But yeah, that's a good.
all of these credits brought it down, but it is the page 5 and the top of page 6 was the total they gave us,
Right.
and then they gave us credits to bring it down to the
And
28.
what Mike was talking about is that now, whatever's sitting in the budget on Laserfish now, based on the timing of buying this and what's been paid in, and then whatever that fee was, then, that'll be adjusted for the first year. And then after that, we would be paying the, you said the 15.7?
15,735.83.
15.7. So it's a little, that's what it costs for software.
But these credits, I mean, we've paid that money, it's just, it rolls over into this new one from our last, so we
Right.
really paid 42,000, and then it'll be 15 a year, roughly 15.7, not the 22.
It'll go up.
Well, of course.
Right, and then, the price over time will change, but there will be, by changing over, we're not going to get double charged. We will get a credit on what we currently have, and then going forward, we will pay the rate of the partial rate of what the annual fee is, for the remainder of the year. And then when that's over, we'll have an annual fee.
And we're going with the Laserfish Cloud, so on page 1 on the licensing guide, are we doing the business? To the far right, yes, the one you have pulled up, is that it's starter, professional, or business?
See, and that doesn't even apply to us because that's 25 users.
Well, that's a minimum of 25.
Oh,
Right.
I thought it said max. Oh, no minimum, thank you. It would
Well,
have,
they all say minimum. I think your question, there is a maximum.
and it
so-
was 40-something in what I saw, somewhere in here, 40-something users.
The public portal web link view under it's on this same page that we have pulled up. Under it, module-based license, it says 1,000 views, blocks of 10,000 views, and then the business goes to unlimited views.
But it says the site license for the
Mm-hmm.
population is for a population of 15,000 or less.
I guess today we had issues, because this came up several years back, prior to, there was like something about the license subscription, like we had 8 or 10. So if you left it on your, work computer here, if some people had it on, it was limited, and there was some other technical, the server and all that stuff. But today, we don't really know what we pay in Laserfish today.
If I had it in front of me, I could tell you exactly what it was. I don't
so-
have that number.
Do we know if this is more or less than what we're paying ongoing?
I believe that this is going to be more.
To go to the
Oh,
cloud?
Yeah, I believe so, yeah, because I think, I want to say it's currently, if this is 15,000, the other one's more like 10 or 11,000. So we're going to be paying a little bit more, yes.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
over time, these server-based local applications are only going to get more expensive to support. And we will end up paying more in the long term.
Oh, I'm not agreed. I didn't think it was smart for us to go on the server base from the beginning. I like the moves we're making, and I think as long as, I mean, I asked if you worked with it in the past. I'm assuming, being this, is that you want to continue.
Yes.
Esther, please tell us how important this really is for the city clerk's office. Tell the council how important this is.
Okay, we're entering hurricane season, and we will be doomed if anything happened to our server, because this is on the server. And, you know, when it's cloud-based, at least, you know, you have that more security, you know, knowing that your records will not be destroyed or destroyed based on any potential impacts. However, the searching will be much easier once we get the records in its proper form. It'll be less expensive in the long run. And unfortunately, next year, they're no longer going to support this system that we currently have. The support is going to go away. And the version that we're using now is not the current version at all, you know,
That's what's happening too. You're almost being forced to, just like we were with the BSNA cloud. Now, they basically, it's almost like an ultimatum. You know, it's like, it's going away. You could keep it a couple more years, but it won't be supported. So this is what's happening. And this is, basically, I think this is pretty much a racket the way they do this. This is how they make their money, but you're almost pushed to move over to something else. And here we go, you know, with Laserfish. We just did it with BSNA.
It's an industry standard. That's just the way software as a service is going to work.
It's like 10 years ago industry standard. I mean, the fact that I never understood why everything was so closed here. And so I'm very excited about this. But we were working in the cloud. I mean, Salesforce was one of the first cloud programs out there. They kind of started it. And now, obviously, Salesforce took a lot of people's money, and they're a big 800-pound gorilla, and now there's many more. And, I think that this is the right move, just knowing the costs. It's going to be worth it. It eliminates interruptions. It provides security. That's all great. And the other thing I would say is the MCCI program, they write our code book, right?
Yes, they do.
And I saw that you can request a printed copy. Are there any, I would like to get a copy. I don't know if it comes to barter in this or a part of this negotiation. At least the council has a current printed copy as well.
Of the code? Of a printed copy of the...
Of the code?
Yes, of course.
And
yes.
they provide ongoing updates?
Yes,
so
they
when
will.
we change our code and submit
Yes.
it, they'll handle, is that how that works?
And much more, because, say, for example, if you enact an ordinance today, and it can just go right out on the web within a day or two, because you've actually made that action. They work on that.
So expanding, yes, I know they offer, maybe we don't utilize all their services.
No, you don't.
So if that's something that I'm very interested in utilizing more, one that can provide services that are trusted, reliable, especially
Right.
if it helps you.
And much more, you can make comparisons to see what other jurisdictions are doing at the same time. You know, say, for example, the fees or, you know, similar ordinances. At an instant, you can see what...
Oh, I love that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilmember Jackson.
I just have one last question, just to make sure we're configured correctly is what I'm looking at. Because when you look at the licensing guide on page 1, We've got add-on option minimum of 10 for participant users. And then we've got the community users defined within the bid, but I don't see the participant users defined really. So I'm wanting to make sure, because we've got 15,000, less than 15,000 on the population. So that's the, the community users. And then you'll see on page 6, under training center, they accommodated on our old system 25 to 49 users. But I'm not seeing that participant user add-on over here in the annual subscription. So is that in there and I'm just not needing to worry about that, Esther, City Clerk, or am I missing something? Because I don't see the definition of what we have for our employee users.
They're licensed, meaning that there are different categories whereby you can have read-only, the users who are licensed to monitor the actual module. It gives certain security controls over as to what one would be able to do with it. As I said, the users can be the license holders, but it can be broad, whereby the public, staff, or anybody else can access it. So.
Okay, so they're not separate add-on modules?
No.
For the participant user, the community user, and the education users, like it says. Okay, that's all I needed to know. I wanted to make sure we had those covered. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Okay,
Okay.
Mayor Pro Tem Kellum, I'm just gonna go down the line. Anything on this?
Nope, I'm ready to make a motion.
You got it ready when you are. Go for it.
I make a motion that we approve the upgrade to the cloud for $28,489.29.
I'll second.
Got a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Kellum, second by Councilmember Davis. Any further discussion? Seeing none, City Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Davis.
4.
Councilmember Jackson.
4.
Mayor Pro Tem Kellum.
4.
Mayor Morrison.
4.
Councilmember Willis.
4.
All right, item number 8D passes unanimously 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Which brings us to item 9, unfinished business, which we have no items. Moving on to item 10, items for discussion, no items. And finally, 11 reports. We have 2. The monthly financial report, February 2025, and the quarterly Q4 2024 Public EV Charging Station Program Report. Slight change. I just want to understand it. We used to put these under informational, which we always, I think, defined as, and please correct us if we've been wrong, as, hey, they're informational, you don't discuss them. Under the reports here, is it the desire that there's going to be a report provided, or are we saying these are the reports provided? Do we need to take these up?
I think just with the change, with the city clerk, I believe that, in a sense, they're named reports, right? That's the name of them. But in the past, basically, it's informational.
We don't need,
No.
no one has a matter to take action on or vote. here.
Right,
There's-
so.
As they state.
Right, I could see where that was put under reports because it says reports, but in essence, really, these things are just informational, and that's something, we're adjusting, Mayor, to, the whole,
Me too.
yeah,
Yeah, no, that's,
yeah. So that's all, we just dropped that, Esther, that's all, yeah, it's not a big deal, but.
well, with that, I guess informational, if there's not anything there, we certainly can do our reports with this at this point, but I don't want to jump to our reports if there was anything in there that needed to be addressed, typically under informational. If not, well, I'll ask council. Are we ready to go into our reports? City Clerk, are we rowing along okay here? City Attorney?
Yes,
I know that was,
time for reports.
you got it. Let's do it. Mayor Pro Tem, you want to kick us off?
I don't have any reports this week.
Councilmember Willis.
We hosted the Central Florida FDOT Safety Steering Committee at the Cape Center last week, and it was well attended. We had good representation. Zach presented information and a presentation on the C5, and we also had a report from Space Coast TPO on projects in our area. And I attended the Space Coast TPO Governing Board meeting this past week, and we have the confirmational vote on our crosswalk. So we are fully funded now for the crosswalk. So that's going to save us $500,000.
Thank you very much. Anything else, Councilmember Willis? Not that that wasn't enough. Very, very good news. Thank you for sharing that. Councilmember Davis. Councilmember Jackson.
I'm going to have a fun one and kind of an interesting one because I think at some point we as council need to discuss this. I think we're in really good shape, but we all saw that the city did receive a DOGE letter from the state, and John gave me that we were able to answer positively on all of our questions that we had. However, just so everyone knows, they are looking at they mentioned is 4 to 8 months or longer look at each city. And cities are stepping up all over, as well as counties in Florida, because Governor DeSantis he went out and asked people, please step up, ask to, opt in and volunteer. I think we're in good shape, which is great because we got those questions answered correctly. Just to give you an idea though, Bay County has opted in, Jacksonville has opted in, Panama City has opted in, Pinellas County has opted in, Walton County has opted in, the city of Gainesville has opted in, and Hillsborough County has opted in. So these counties, in most cases, they're saying this in a positive aspect. We want to opt in, we want to get this over with that's going to occur. We think it's a good thing. We think we've got ourselves taken care of, and we're ready to go. So, but I didn't know if some of you had heard this about Governor DeSantis and his request for cities to step up and say, we want to be transparent, we want to look at our efficiency, we think we're doing a good job, but we're opting in. So I just wanted to let you all know that that's something that's happening, and just bring that up. I thought it was interesting how many have gone in and proactively opted in that I've seen so far.
Is there a place you can go to see centralized I guess each independent city website or county? I heard counties and cities.
Yes, they're doing, from what I have learned, they're doing 67 counties in Florida and every municipality. So I think that's what the drive was with DeSantis, is trying to get the ones that know they're in good shape, because it's that when you can't answer those questions positively in the letter that was sent, those are the ones that they're going to be going out and trying to help them and make sure that they're set up correctly and everything. So I think that's what's happening. For example, one of the council members in Jacksonville said, this is great for transparency. I think this is a good thing for us to do, to look at efficiency. And he said, he wants to do it. So they're different people, different cities and different counties that are stepping up saying, yes, let's get it done and get it over with, so we can move on. And then there are some that are, I believe, are dragging their feet, and a few that are saying, whoa, no, we don't want to do this. So, but I wanted to give you an update on it because I found it quite interesting when the League of Cities sent that information to us. I wanted to keep track of this and see what's happening within our state. So I just thought I'd give you an update on that.
That's helpful. Thank you for that. Is there anything else?
No, I attended the Space Coast League of Cities last night. That was a wonderful night, wonderful speaker, and several of us were there, and that was my report. I didn't have anything as monumental as Don.
We were all there, and it was nice to have us all there.
All of us were there.
And many of our city staff were there. So, yes, echo that. Thank you all.
And
represented well.
To add on to what you said about the Doge, the League of Cities is cautious. Florida League of Cities is going to be cautious on this because we already are being preempted enough by Tallahassee with them telling us what we're going to do, what we need to do, and on top of all the unfunded mandates that are coming down, this is just another thing to make us have to do something else. So it's going to be cautiously monitored.
Thank you. My reports would just be, I'm always at the Doge at the federal level, state. Yeah, when you get at the city level, I'm interested. I think we're always looking at efficiency, but to formalize something, to create a board, to go through it, the state demanding it, I don't like that. I don't think we ever like that. The state has functions and, operational audits and things to measure program efficiency. You can look at wherever you want. There's obviously have costs. We've done audits. We do financial audits every year. I think we did some IT audits. But right now, where Cape Canaveral is in transition, it's, for me, my gut, it's not a great time for us to go launch into this in any type of Doges. We're strong, we're mighty, but we're fragile in a good way. I think we're banded together. We have new people, we have new exciting things, new programs. We're transitioning, obviously a big transition potentially in front of us here. And so my hope would be that we continue to learn and figure out, well, what can we do? And when is the best time, knowing that the state can speed up time and force us and preempt. I would like to begin talking internally and maybe coming up some ideas in the next meeting too, without pushing our resources right now with the team we have. And John is the steady hand on the wheel with the support. And I don't want anything right now to disrupt that. That's really important. I think that is in the best interest of the citizens of Cape Canaveral. However, I'm very interested in, a new city manager coming in to say, hey, we want to do this. We want to figure out what is the best way to retain our home rule, that we can serve this.
Really a rather surprised to see they are going to do like the 4 to 5 month thing, because I haven't found any description of what that will be like. So interesting that so many are stepping up, but I think a lot of them are in situations where they want to get it out of the way.
Mm-hmm.
So, but just to give you an update, and the questions that we received in that, all of ours were in a positive state, which is a good thing. And that makes a huge difference, because they're going after those that are not, to do a little more deep of an initial audit, as from what I'm understanding.
It would be great to say, hey, thank you for asking, a year from now, look at what we're already doing in the spirit of efficiency and improvements, that we decide upon. Maybe we appoint our own citizen advisory committee that, we can call it whatever we want. I'm not going to get, but the goals can be and the missions aligned. That's all I wanted to say about it. I think it's good. Certainly comes, if we can lead it outward instead of being compelled, that would be desired. However, if citizens start coming up and certainly top down, I'll be ready. And thank you for bringing that up, Councilmember Jackson, and all the input we've heard. I don't have any reports other than things are moving along, and I'm really excited and continue to remain optimistic on the city of Cape Canaveral, and extremely thankful to the city staff and everything you'll continue to do. I know every day we don't know all the problems, we don't see them, but just know that we know they happen, they're always going to happen, and if there's anything I can do or we can do to support or help further, please let us know. Excited about some of the things we passed tonight, which I think are the things we want to do right now to give you the tools you need in records management in our IT department, and some of the pains and frustrations, and then the expansion of the city hall, or optimizing city hall. And with that, interim city manager, any reports?
Two small things. For the meeting on Thursday, please make sure you bring your budget books. And the only other thing is, to support my IT department, Mike and Duncan are sitting in the same office. I didn't say that during the expansion things, but we'll have room to where we'll be able to separate. But I just wanted to make sure I care about you back there, Dunk. I just want to let you know that. So they are sitting in the same office.
I'm aware. Oh, I think I mumbled it or mentioned it.
I couldn't remember.
You said it was an efficiency, though. From time to time, it's nice having the person there. We were small talking and passing. It's, hey, you're right there. I can ask you. Totally get it.
But that's it. In staff, yeah, the new people on staff, our current people on staff, our IT department's so strong, and our city clerk, but our whole staff, it is so refreshing on the positiveness, the motivation, and everybody is just giving 100%. I am so thankful. That's all I got.
Thank you, and we appreciate you, John.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
City attorney, who we also appreciate. Any reports?
Hopefully you appreciate that.
I do. I like that. City clerk? Thank you. And you're appreciated. We're all appreciated in here. Everyone is appreciated. Brevard County Sheriff's Office, anything we need to know? Reports? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and end the meeting. Meeting adjourned.